Some people ask, is SEO dead? I think you've clearly stated SEO is not dead. But for example, if you were growing Nextiva today or Sales Hacker today, might SEO still have that same punch that it had when you were driving bus?
Ah, wow. All right, so this is great, man. I'm glad you brought it up. SEO now, if you're a brand that is slightly more established and you have a little bit of momentum, you can really continue to ride that wave. Where it gets really hard is if you're a complete newcomer at the very bottom of the mountain and you have a huge uphill battle in front of you. Then I think it's really tough. But even then, there's still things you can do. You can target the extreme long tail. You can find much narrower versions of things that you can write about and rank for that are not as competitive as the most obvious go-to chunky head term competitive things that every other big company is targeting. One example where I had to go as extreme long tail as I could because it was so competitive, identity theft. So I wouldn't rely on a typical keyword research tool because they won't even give you the kind of things you need to rank for. I started using auto-suggest, and I remember doing content strategy for very long, 7-8 phrase long queries. So things like, what can hackers do with your blank? And then work your way down the line. That's a massive rabbit hole. Can someone steal your identity with blank? Work your way down the line. Yeah. What happens if a scammer has your, and you just work your way down the line?
But I've heard you talk about not necessarily using volume to choose your keyword. Like the volume for those keywords, it's not necessarily going to be massive.
It's going to be probably less than 10 searches a month. But the thing is, I relied on listening to sales calls to get a lot of that information. I would use Gong, go through the call transcription, start typing some of these things in. Scammer found my, scammer has my, what can happen if, dark web, all this kind of shit. And then you start to see the patterns and you start to listen to the tone in these people's voices, which is pure fear. And from that point, it's like, oh man, we have to be found for this because this is a pain point micro moment, which inevitably will lead to a product. And that was really my process for driving quality SEO results, not so much focused on volume like you said.
That's wild, man. All right, cool. Cool. So we're going to put Gaetano in the hot seat right now. So you've been dropped on a desert island, no food. You got to hunt for your own food, find your own water, build your shelter. You have $1,000 a month budget. You got a laptop. You got Wi-Fi. Don't ask how you have Wi-Fi on the desert island.
All right, that's built into the package.
There you go. This is a Richard Branson island.
All right, cool. You don't need a big marketing budget to do great shit. I would start a podcast, exactly what you're doing. I would record the audio and video on Zoom, extract the audio, host that on Libsyn or Anchor FM. I would edit and chop up the video myself using iMovie or QuickTime. Edit the audio myself using GarageBand. So far, all free things you can be doing. It just takes effort and time. Assuming I still already have my LinkedIn street cred, I would use that to my advantage and reach out to the top 100 people I would want to be my dream customers and invite them to be a guest on my podcast. I would repurpose all those episodes onto my YouTube channel, summarize that content in a Twitter thread, repurpose it for a LinkedIn video post with actionable takeaways. I would do a blog article recap page. Use all that momentum to build newsletter subscribers. So the idea is that I'm building an audience before I actually try and go sell shit. So then I would ask each podcast guest to refer someone else in their network who should also come on the show. And then from there, I focus on long tail pain point SEO. So a lot of the things that I just mentioned regarding like the what can a scammer do with I would try and find those insights based on the conversations I'm having in my podcast interviews. assuming that I am the subject matter expert or I know enough about it, I would write it all myself because I don't have budget to hire writers. If I'm not the subject matter expert and I can't write it myself, what I do is just go and interview more people and figure out how to write it, or figure out a way to get other people to write it for me and incentivize them with some kind of favor. Yeah, so I followed this process for pretty much like a year straight. And then after a year, I'd probably have over 100 new website pages, 40 to 50,000 organic visitors per month coming to my website. I'd have over 50 podcast interviews in the books, completed, repurposed, and circulating online. I'd have at least 10,000 newsletter subscribers, and all of this would cost less than $1,000 a month combined. Less than $10,000 to $12,000 a year. You can get all this going just with one very hungry person that's driven and committed to win, and that's what I would do.
That's wild.
Stress me, but right now I'm chilling now.